Hello everyone, thank you for joining me in this session. Today I want to talk with you about cultivating a FinOps culture in your organization and how Wix approached it. My name is Dvir Mizrahi. I joined Wix 6.5 years ago to implement the FinOps practice. I'm currently the head of financial engineering at Wix. I'm AWS subject matter expert for cloud financial management. I'm a FinOps certified practitioner, and I also have my own content, and I create my own content mostly around FinOps mindset and that area of cultivating culture. Today I want to talk with you a bit about Wix, the place I work. What is FinOps based on the FinOps Foundation definition of FinOps, and I want to share with you 10 lessons that we've learned from our FinOps evolution at Wix, how to cultivate that cultural change, and how to be a cost-aware organization across multiple teams and disciplines. So let's begin. A bit about Wix. Wix is a platform that gives you the freedom to create, design, manage, and develop your web presence exactly the way you want it to. It's an amazing platform and very intuitive platform for us to create websites and to give our users the ability to create web presence. We were founded in 2006. By 2021, we served more than 200 million users across more than 190 countries around the world. And it's quite impressive to see the growth of the company. I joined Wix in 2017 to escort and govern the cloud migration that we had from our on-premises data centers into the cloud, and to implement what was known back then as a cloud analyst, or to make sure we have some kind of visibility and governance in the migration. And by 2019, when the FinOps Foundation was founded, the term FinOps was created. So I joined Wix in 2017 to implement the FinOps culture in the organization. We just didn't call it FinOps back then. A bit about the scale of Wix. So as I said, Wix is a massive company with more than 18 cloud locations around the world, 3 physical data centers globally, and more than 2,000 developers that works on different frameworks and different platforms in the organization. Because of the sheer scale, Wix is divided into companies in charge of different features, and the challenges that it creates for a FinOps engineer is to understand the businesses behind each group and to make sure that we align with the different peers, which is, I'm going to talk about it later, part of the main challenge in cultivating a culture inside an organization. So what is FinOps? I keep using that word. What is financial operation, or how we call it financial engineering? FinOps, based on the FinOps Foundation's definition, is an evolving cloud financial management discipline and cultural practice that enables organizations to get maximum business value by helping engineers, finance, technology, and business teams to collaborate on data-driven spending decisions. And this is a huge, definition and very high-level definition of what this practice actually is. So the biggest question would be, how do we create that discipline? How do we create that cultural practice in our organization using data-driven spending decisions? And I think most companies have their challenges implementing that FinOps in an organization that will create a discipline and a cultural practice. So how did you approach it at Wix? And to do so, I'm going to talk a bit about 10 lessons we've learned in our journey to make sure we create advocates for the financial KPI across our organization, and changing the mindset of the engineers to be more cost sensitive. And the first lesson would be focus on waste metrics, not cost. So many FinOps tools focus heavily on cost dashboards. The problem with this is that they don't provide actionable insights. For example, a $50,000 EC2 other cost may or may not be acceptable, and it's unclear whether any action needs to be taken. So instead, focusing on waste metrics can provide more useful information, which is to understand what kind of action items I can generate from the data that I'm collecting. So for example, if I have a C5 9X large in North Virginia costing me $1.53 per hour, and I'm using only 30% CPU on it, I can actually create a dashboard showing waste of 1.53 multiply the 70% of waste non-utilized workload hourly. So if I have, for example, also an EBS volume with 20% utilization capacity, I can show waste of 80%. If I have a Dynamo table provisioning 100 IOPS and using only 20 IOPS, well, you get the idea, right? Arranging such a dashboard, which is based on the same class of waste, top to bottom, will actually show us where we need to put our attention and generate action items for the engineering teams in the next sprint. Because eventually when we talk about those dashboards, the next question for a dashboard will be, okay, what kind of actions I can generate from the data that is being presented to me? And focusing mostly on cost doesn't really generate agendas, it just generates action items to investigate. We can already do the investigation automatically. The second point I want to talk with you about is build trust and maintain it. Accuracy is key. I've consulted to many companies saying people don't trust my financial models because they have proven to be inaccurate time over time. So building trust with engineering teams is a gradual process. It requires many small building blocks, right? But however, trust can be easily broken by a single small mishap. And it also occurs to us when we use the wrong metric or the things that we calculate in the organization wasn't based on the real or accurate data. So our goal is to make sure that the data or financial information, measurements, and models we're building are as accurate as possible. We need to make sure that we're using the correct cost metric. So for example, if I'm talking about amortized versus unblended in AWS, so the real accurate costs versus amortization, cost and applying the same credits in GCP, effective reservation allocation, etc. We need to make sure that our models are robust enough and accurate enough in order to show the real expected cost reduction. So the worst thing we can do is to present a cost reduction number, to change the engineering team's priority, just to understand later that we took on-demand cost while this workload was covered by a reservation. And if we see half the expected reduction, it will hurt the trust that we're trying to build in the organization. So be accurate and keep the trust. Use the relevant data for your model. The third point I want to share with you is be proactive. So if you're waiting to see how your environment is doing from the cost reports, so you're kind of missing the whole entire point of FinOps. Acting on cost is a reactive process that handles the incident after they occur. I mean, you have to wait for the data, the cost data, in order to generate action items. So our goal is to proactively govern the cloud spend. So we do that by aligning our company's roadmap, integrating with the engineering provisioning pipelines, monitoring business growth to anticipate when we might need to increase our footprint, identifying pitfalls and missing visibility in our environment, and implementing other proactive predictions and engineering processes to stay ahead of the curve. So the point here in being proactive is that every dollar not wasted on the cloud and not provisioned beforehand is a dollar saved. And preventing waste or preventing it in the first place before you generate action items from the cost is something that should be your bread and butter as a FinOps engineer. The first one would be to be that go-to professional to apply that financial KPI. Many companies manage their engineering pipelines differently. The best lesson we've learned was that we have to be part of that pipeline. FinOps shouldn't be an after-the-fact consultant, but as part of the provisioning and planning process, and escort that journey closely to apply that elusive financial KPI. Only that way we can assure that people are mindful of that KPI and slowly but surely create an engineering culture changes that create engineering advocates for cost efficiency. Stop reserving waste. I know some people will roll their eyes on me today, but stop reserving waste. Most of the FinOps practitioners I talked with measure their success in their journey by mentioning reservation covered capacity percentage using AWS Azure Reservation or GCP CUD. Saying we are 100% covered, 100% utilized, and we continue to remind them that the 30% waste on the cloud refers to utilization waste, regardless of whether financial plans cover our environment or not. So bragging to be covering your waste with reservation is not always the right FinOps approach. And we learned that by pushing forward with optimizing our underlying hardware, we can actually bring much more value in the long run as it reduces the required commitments. So if you're just starting, I'm not saying don't buy reservation. You can start by having this quick win method to reduce costs, but don't make a practice out of it. Apply your business knowledge. The sixth point I want to talk with you about is probably for me the most important point in cultivating a FinOps culture. So no, we're not talking about tagging your environment. That is obvious. We have a Wix saying, hardware provision that is not serving our business has no right to stay up. The idea behind it is simple. We are running resources in the cloud to serve our business, not just for fun. If we can't understand how our workload serves our business, it might be difficult to justify the ROI, the return of investment for that workload. An example of it might be a database only used for writing without reading, or 0 active sessions in the last 30 days. An application to serve requests without having any requests sent to it, or any other use case that in that area. Apply your business logic here. If you don't know what the workload serves and how it impacts your business, you should flag that workload as waste until proven otherwise. You can't measure its value. If you can't measure its value, is it really worth the money? So those are great questions to ask in your organization, because eventually when we're talking about the fully utilized workloads, not the wasteful one or the over-provisioned one, the fully utilized workloads you'll be able to optimize them only by understanding the underlying business that they're serving. And if you can't figure that out, then flag it as waste. Success stories. Celebrate wins no matter if it's big or small. So this is a very, very powerful but very tricky tool to use. And I think one of the biggest challenges in the FinOps world is how to create that cost-sensitive culture in the organization and how to change the mindset of our engineers. So one of the ways we successfully build engagement is by celebrating wins, as well as team initiatives, creativity, out-of-the-box thinking when it comes to optimizing their workload. So as soon as we mention success stories, people start thinking and looking for opportunities for projects to improve efficiency in the production environment or other workloads that might be well optimized in their area. We as FinOps engineers, right, can relay to management all the initiatives that took place during the month and how they contributed to the business. Sharing the success stories and giving credits to the relevant engineers and the relevant teams build trust and increase engagement. It's a powerful tool for an organization's ability to inspire, motivate, and build credibility with stakeholders while driving growth and innovation. And it's a tricky one because you don't want to give like financial benefits or incentives for optimization. We don't want to create a culture that over provision by default just to show improvement. We want to truly celebrate the engineering wins, applying a cost reduction by a collaboration and management visibility, but not by financial incentives or other ways that I've heard about in the industry. So financial, that brings us, celebrating the wins is awesome, but we can't really ignore the incidents, right? And mistakes are inevitable. We understand it. So financial incidents are production incidents. And as I said, I mean, everyone makes mistakes, so mistakes are inevitable. But it's crucial to learn from them and improve internal processes within the organization. In FinOps, how we define a financial incident, so it refers to any unexpected expense that falls outside the defined budget and isn't a result of a natural business growth. So for example, increased traffic and increased hardware cost is not a financial incident. It's a growth. So when we encounter a financial incident, we will follow the same process as we do for production incidents. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? We have processes in place. We just need to simply fit into the existing process. What we do is open a financial incident in the same way that we open production incident and work toward a quick resolution of that financial incident. Once resolved, if applicable, we will conduct a postmortem to identify how to avoid future occurrences and take actionable steps within the team. That creates something that I really love talking about in my sessions. It creates an organizational education on how to approach the financial KPI. People are being responsible and make sure that they put it as part of their KPIs to avoid financial incident, because they understand how the education work and how to learn from previous or past mistakes. The ninth point is common language. And for me, I think it's, again, one of the biggest challenges in the FinOps community. Because you often hear the phrase being a cost-aware organization. And language matters, right? Because the problem is that you can't create action items for the organization to do from being cost-aware, or to create action item from the cost metrics, right? Unless it's investigating and the probability of finding out what to optimize. You can't drive engagement from cost. So this in turn hurts the effort to drive a cultural change. What is the point of being aware of cost when the follow-up questions and action items are what matters? So instead of being a cost-aware organization, advance the policy of being waste-aware, which generate actionable dashboards and action items for the engineering teams. Instead of being a cost-aware organization, you can be a cost-sensitive organization, which doesn't wait to be aware of the costs to implement a policy in the design phase to reach a cost-sensitive technical solution, not cost-driven. So instead of cost-aware organization, we can also promote a business-aware culture to apply business unit economics to our workload to measure its efficiency. Not how much things cost, but how much value and impact they generate. And I emphasize it again, language matters. We change the terminology from cost to waste, change spend to investment, and underutilization to efficiency score. Those things really helped us in our FinOps journey to drive the cultural change. The last point I want to talk with you about is a bit niche for me. I think it's a very important skill to be curious and asking questions. When we created the content, we did a certification program in Israel, a free certification program for FinOps. And we created the content. The first thing we identified to be a great FinOps engineer are soft skills. It's the ability to drive agendas, engage with peers, and educate engineers in our organization. It mostly comes from having good communication skills, curiosity, and being a people person. And I think that the ability not to take things for granted, ask the hard questions, and insist on getting a full response is why things are the way they are, is a key factor in driving change. Most of the time, engineers can explain why they are doing something or what the solution they implemented does, but most often they can't really explain if it actually is the best way to doing something or what the problem is that they're trying to solve. And I want to end with a question to you guys. What works in your organization? How did you manage to drive a cultural change? I would love to hear your thoughts. Ping me an email, and on LinkedIn, I'm available. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great day and amazing sessions. Thank you.